This is the Alden Report.
All right. Well, my name is Michael Alden. We are here in my home office. I always say we're here in Blue Bay Studios. We're actually here in my home office. I'm rocking the glasses as usual. These ones are a little bit more than the 99-cent ones. But as always, I always say how excited I am for my next guest. And I'm super excited for my next guest. My next guest actually met on this app called Clubhouse. I'm not sure when you're listening to this or when you're watching this, but his story was inspiring to me. It was super interesting. He's a 3-time author. He's a #1 best-selling author. But the interesting part about his books is he wrote his books in prison. And not only that, when he wrote his books in prison, he didn't even have a high school diploma when he went inside. He also suffered with dyslexia. And now he is a #1 best-selling author. He's out there showing the world, that forget about your past. He's saying, look, you have a past, you don't need to stay there, and you can do great things. He's out there inspiring people. He's inspired me. So I think you're going to be really inspired by my next guest. Please help me welcome Mr. Devell Hawkins. Devell, thanks so much for being my guest.
Thanks for having me.
So, man, again, you have a really interesting story. Again, we met on that app called Clubhouse, and I heard your story, and I was super inspired. For those who don't know us, tell us a little bit about your background. I mean, I know it's interesting. There's a lot of stuff that's happened to you, but I'd like to just hear about kind of how you grew up and what it was like growing up in Florida. With a single mom and just kind of struggling and just tell me what your life was like as a kid.
Well, as a kid, I was the youngest of 3. My mother, she was a bus driver, a school bus driver. And most of the time, most of my school years, I was riding her bus. So I couldn't skip school too much, right?
That's funny.
I was the youngest of 3, man, and I was actually the baddest one of the 3. So I guess that worked out well for her, because the other 2 kids, they was pretty good. They was pretty good kids, but I used to get them all the hell they wanted. So she was struggling with the 3 kids that she had. She was a single parent, and she was always a people person, where other kids in the community would come to our house, and it was open doors. It was just like our house was the other kids in the community home as well. But we grew up in a poverty area where you seen anything you wanted to see as soon as you walk outside the door. So it was very rough, and I had no choice but to be a product of my environment, you would say, because I was surrounded by everything and everything and anything. So I was raised by the streets as well, put it that way. And
Can I ask you a little bit about that? So I tell people all the time, I grew up in the projects and I grew up tough, and you and I have talked offline. We've had some great conversations, and when I think about, again, the way I grew up, and for a lot of people it was extremely difficult, but your upbringing was not only difficult, but there were instances and times where you were actually probably feared for your life, right? I mean, the way I grew up, that wasn't. I mean, we used to fight with our fists, and every once in a while, and I've been, there's been some other kind of bad things, but I mean, when we talk about growing up rough, tell me, there's a great book called How Children Succeed, and it really kind of struck a chord with me, where growing up the way I did and tough, but then when you have people like yourself who grow up tough as well, but the difference between the way I grew up and the way you grew up is there's a lot, but one of the big ones is that you actually probably pretty much feared for your life every day.
Yeah, it was rough, man, because almost every other night you're hearing gunshots or whatever. And I kind of fell right in the line of that, because I was influenced by my community, and I came out the house at 12 years old. What they say, jumped off the porch. I jumped off the porch at 12 years old, man, and I was already out there selling drugs. The first drug I sold was actually a fake drug to get the money to buy real drugs. So and it was definitely rough, and it was a challenge. And I kind of I went through my struggles as a kid. I was taken advantage of by some of the older guys, testing my heart, testing my, my grit, to see where I was and what kind of kid I really was out there, since I was jumping off the porch so early. And like I say, I was the last child. I was the last child, the baddest child in my home. So I had that same approach when I hit the streets. You know, I wasn't afraid to get my hands dirty. So
Now, you talk about, being a bad kid, now years later, I don't know when you found this out, but you had dyslexia, and I don't know if you had any other like learning disabilities as well. So being a bad kid is really, I mean, it was probably more of a physical or a chemical thing that was just happening to you. That there's nothing you could do about it unless it was addressed, right? I mean, when
right,
did that get addressed for you? Like, when did you realize, man, like I have dyslexia, and there's all
I,
different forms of it, but when did that get addressed?
yeah, around the third grade, I had already realized it, Mike. I used to use my aggression for a way out. I used my aggression even in class, in school. In the third grade, it was crazy. I used to leave school and wait for the bell to ring for us to get on the bus to go home. So, that was happening while I was in the third grade. So this was nothing new to me as I was growing up,
Did the teachers know? Did your mom know? Did other people know?
they found out, and what happened was I was so good in sports and I was so good, like, drawing on paper at the time when I was a kid. They actually passed me through the grades for that because I used to decorate. I say, okay, well, just don't leave school no more. Don't walk out of class no more. This is what we'll do. So I did all the artwork in the class versus having to read and write and stuff like that. And then I was playing sports, and I had the teachers at a young age coming to my games and stuff like that. But then that's one life, but I was living two different lives at a young age because I also had my street life because I started stealing cars, and then I started going to juvenile home, and I was back and forth in and out of juvenile home for like all my youth years, all my teenage years, put it that way.
Was it, growing up like that? Was it almost like something that you mentioned earlier, you were a product of your environment. Was it something like you felt like as a man or a young boy, really, it was something that you kind of had to do? Like you said, you said the older guys tested you. Was it something like if you didn't do it, then I don't know, you're a fucking pussy or something? Like did you feel pressured? Like,
I felt embarrassed, Mike. I
okay,
felt embarrassed. So I used that aggression to cover up how I really felt. And that's the way it kind of like I held on to that for many years. And that's why I ended up going to juvenile home because I at that age as a teenager, I was actually putting money in my mom's purse, and I got a good ass whooping for that because she found out, exactly what was going on. She eventually found out that it was me because I'm the one that was sneaking out the house at night, and I'm on the street corners and I'm on the block as a kid, and I'm doing these things that I'm supposed to be doing. And next thing you know, she's getting a call from the police officers or the detention center of where I'm at. And I'm incarcerated at a young age, and I was going in and out, and I never could read and write, and this was my go-to thing. I was pretty much a troublemaker, Mike.
so okay, so here's the thing that frustrates me about this. I'm sure it frustrates you as well. It's like, okay, so in third grade you knew, right? But did your mom know? Did the school know? And if they did, like, what did they do about it for you? Like, I mean, I know you said that it was just the art thing, but like, did they do anything? I mean, did they try and because I don't even know how old you are, but like I know they have like what they call IEPs now, individual education plans for kids who are dyslexic or have ADHD. Did they try and at least give you the help that you need so you could be successful, or did they just say, you know what, just do the artwork and we'll pass you?
Well, I have a fifth grade teacher named Miss Hall Mike, and that is the only teacher that stands out to me that actually like took the time to try and help me educate and try and figure out what would be the best way for me to learn. That is the only teacher that comes to mind that I can remember that actually tried their hardest, to get me to become a better person and work with me. I mean, she paid me so much attention. She gave me everything she had in her. Her name was Miss Hall. I don't even know if she's still here today, but yeah, that was a great teacher. And that was during the time my mom really found out what was going on with me. when I was in the 5th grade.
Okay, so you're out of elementary school, you get into middle school, and it sounds like right around this time is when things start to you really start to get involved in crime. So you're doing things like you said, what, stealing cars, I'm guessing.
Cars. I was doing all kind of robberies and things like that. I mean, anything to get money at the time, and it was just really breaking the law. I had a thing for breaking the law. I really didn't care about what laws was in place. I just had a thing for breaking them and get money any kind of way that I could out there in the streets.
Was
So
it was it because you needed money? Is that really the big thing, or was it two things? Was it the money and then it just becomes an addiction in a way as well, or?
well, it was both, Mike. It was because we was already poor, right? So I mean, if we washing our own clothes in the bathtub, and we wearing this same outfit, maybe twice a week. You got 5 days of school, twice that week. I might wear the same outfit twice. So when you're in a situation like that and your back is against the wall and you don't want to put that pressure on your mom, you kind of tend to go out there and try and make things happen yourself. And that's what I fell into. And yeah, and that's what led me back and forth in and out of juvenile home, in and out of prison and everything like that. So my first prison sentence was like 3.5 years, but I hadn't done so much stuff up to that time, and it's crazy how that happened because um, I still ain't learned anything when I did the 3.5 years. I got out, and I was basically doing the same thing that I was doing before I went in. And one thing led to another. It just got more and more deeper. I got a little smarter. I wasn't stealing cars anymore. I got a little smarter. A lot of things had changed. And but the drugs, selling drugs was one of the things that I caught on to and got a little smarter, but I didn't get too smart because I ended up with a 22-year sentence, maybe 7, 8 years later. So
So, listen, again, we met on Clubhouse, and you've written 3 books, and the one that I know about is "I Come Before You." I think your background is super interesting. Again, for those who are listening, we're on with Devell Hawkins. He's an author. He's written 3 books. He wrote them in prison. He suffered with dyslexia. I mean, when you think about someone's background, it doesn't get any tougher the way he grew up. And he's here today to talk. We're going to talk about his book, but I think his background is super interesting because there are so many kids like him right now who are suffering, and they are in fact a product of their environment. I was one of those kids as well, and it wasn't as bad, but I was one of those kids as well. And there's always moments in our lives that, like a teacher or just a certain event, that really kind of changes the trajectory of our life. So if you'd like some more information about Devell, if you just want to pick up his book, you can just go to Amazon. You can just put his name right into Amazon. It's Devell Hawkins, Hawkins. Hey, what's your Instagram too?
it's the same, Devell Hawkins on Instagram.
All right, so it's Devell Hawkins. Check him out. He's doing some great things, and we met on Clubhouse, and he's really inspiring the youth. He's inspired me. He's also inspiring people around his community to show that, hey, again, if you have a past and it's a bad one, you don't have to stay there. I tell that to people all the time. Look, people always say, well, don't forget where you came from. I say, well, you can always remember where you came from, but you don't have to stay there. And he's definitely an example of that. So,
Right.
um, all right. So the product of your environment thing, I want to kind of talk a little bit more about that. And by the way, your next book, I hope, is going to be a self-help motivational book, because I'm guessing you're probably working on that as well. Because I know you've
Yes,
written
you,
fiction
you know,
books. All
you
right.
already know.
All
I'm
right,
working.
good. Because I want to be part of that one. But so this whole thing about being a product of your environment, I think a lot of people who don't understand really what goes on in in communities like the one you grew up in, and also just within the criminal justice system. I was a DA for a short period of time in a really, really tough town, way tougher than the town I grew up here in Mass, is the murder capital of Massachusetts. But so talk about your options. Right, because you said something interesting. You said, Mike, well, I was already poor, and I was good at breaking the law, and so when you have no other options, that your only option is crime, right? I mean, that's
Right,
it.
right, right. And you're gonna do it as long as you can to get away with it. But the interesting thing here, Mike, is I did it for a while. I was breaking the law since I was 12 years old. The interesting thing is I had already went to prison and got out of prison, did 3.5 years, and I was still breaking the law. So what ended up happening, Mike, is I basically I don't want to say became friends, but I guess I hooked up with a one of our local sheriff officers right here in the county, and he was like actually helping me commit some crimes. I mean, he was giving me information, the information that I needed to rob drug dealers, their whereabouts, their safe houses, and everything else. He was helping those same drug dealers traffic drugs and everything. So I had an inside plug with the police, with the sheriff office,
I mean, that
actually.
sounds like something that, like, again, you would that's the type of shit you see in movies, right? Like, you just don't even
Right,
think that stuff really happens. And also,
right,
the thing that's really sucks about that is that, this guy is the guy that's literally supposed to be the one that's protecting the community. He's the guy, and the police officers are the ones that you're supposed to. I mean, I know in this day and age it's a lot worse, but these are the people you're supposed to trust, and they took advantage of
right.
a young man and just, really just made it worse for you.
Right, right. Because I would rob some of these drug dealers and bust down the money with him. Like he'll get his part of the deal once I execute the robbery, and you know, it's a lot of things that happen that I won't go into detail here, but it'll be in my biography when my biography comes out later this year or beginning of next year. So yeah, I'm gonna get really really deep into that. So the,
So like, when like, how did that happen? I mean, I don't want to hear all the details, but just that moment when, so you were already kind of in the system, as people would say, in and out of juvie, did a couple, like, I don't know if you had already done the 3 years, but you're in and out. You're obviously known to the police. You're probably known to the DA.
very
Uh,
yeah.
so like, can you just give us, like, do you remember that moment when this sheriff said, "Hey, like, let's go into business together"? I mean, it's so fucked up, man.
Yeah, it was like not a let's go into business thing. It was more of um he already knowing that the things that I'm doing out in the streets, he know about, but they can't prove it, right? So if you have a criminal out here in these streets I mean, and they've been trying to catch me for the longest, and he just one of the guys was just interesting, like he was interested in how am I doing these things, getting away with it, and they can't prove a doggone thing what they want to prove. So they actually start throwing charges on me, Mike. One time I mean, anything happened in the city, they was just coming at me with it, hoping to land something. And that's why my arrest record is so long, because they were so frustrated to the point to where they just start throwing charges on me. And all of a sudden I'm talking to this guy. He's a black guy, so he's in the community, directly in our community. In fact, he was working in one of the areas which the largest drug area in Central Florida, basically. That was his area where he was posted in, where they had him working at, and that was exactly where I lived. So at the time, I mean, it was just a conversation, and it just kind of like happened naturally. Just talking with him, it kind of happened. You know how you have a conversation with somebody and you don't expect it to happen, and it just happened naturally. So that's what happened with us, and he's supposed to be the law, and I'm out here in the streets. I'm the criminal. I'm out here committing all kind of crimes. He know it, but he also know that I'm good at what I do, and he also know I don't roll with a clique of people. So that was one of the things he was really interested in, how you do so much and you don't have like uh, a group of guys following behind you doing these crimes. So he was definitely interested in that. But guess what, Mike? Well, I'm gonna go into this because this right here will lead until me doing the 22 years in prison. Catching 22 years in prison and getting out earlier than I expected. So he came and told me one day that some Jamaican guys had a hit on me when he told me that. So when he gave me that information, I actually confronted the very same guys that he was talking about. And when I confronted them, it kind of like, it was a little chaos popped off. It wasn't no gunshots though, and nobody ain't get hurt. But it was quite a bit of officers called to the scene, and he told me to leave before they get there. But before I can pull my car off, I was blocked in by another patrol car, and his boss jumped out the car and was like trying to get the information on what was happening at the time. And one of the Jamaican guys came and brought him a gun and was like, "Hey, this guy came around here with this gun." His boss told him to arrest me. So I'm like, all right, you guys want me that bad? Y'all gonna arrest me when y'all just seen this guy bring you a gun, and he said that I came around here with the gun? Possession is 9/10 of the law, Mike. How you gonna charge me with possession when you seen this guy bring you the gun in a towel, wrapped up in a towel, and I get incarcerated for it? Okay, make a long story short, I ended up going to the federal system for that. So I'm in the feds. I stayed in the feds for 10.
Is that the thing you got 22 for?
This is right before I caught the 22.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
So this is the thing. I was in the federal system on a possession of firearm by convicted felon, right? I pushed them to trial because when I read the police report, the guy who helping me commit robberies is the arresting officer, right? So I'm going to trial, 1,000% going to trial. When I get to trial and I go in to pick a jury, no one is there. Come to find out during my trial, the officer that arrested me is under investigation himself now. So what happened is the whole case it blew up right in the prosecutor's face. And they did not like that. They didn't take that kindly at all. So shortly after that, maybe 2.5 years later, I ended up getting arrested again for trafficking, possession of firearm by convicted felon, along with a small amount of cocaine, crack cocaine. And to make a long story short, I was sentenced to 22 years at that point. And when I got 22 years, I was kind of lost in the system because I didn't even have a clue or idea of what I was really signing. They say, "Hey, we're gonna give you a deal for 262 months instead of this life sentence. You're gonna sign it right here."
Why was it a life sentence? Is that just the way the law? Because I know in California they have the 3 strikes you're out like laws, but does Florida have similar laws?
So what happened? The federal system, they go by it's a score sheet they go by, right? And they have different levels and categories. So I fall into the 30 to life category because my record is so long. Okay. And I have so many charges, so many felony charges. They like, okay, you automatically fall into that life category, you see? So the only way I can dodge that life category is one or two things: go to trial and beat it, or either plea out. The judge give me 3 levels off for accepting responsibility, and that will break me down from the life sentence to 30 years to 22 years. So the 3 levels came off the 30 years, and that's how I ended up with 22 versus 30 or life.
How old were you at the time?
I was 28 years old at the time.
Wow.
Went to prison, couldn't read, couldn't write. I didn't know anything about my paperwork, but I knew one thing: not to trust any other inmate or jail or person that's in jail to be in my paperwork, reading my stuff. I knew that much. I wasn't dumb to let that happen.
Well, in a second, I do want to. This is like the kind of the second chapter so far of your life. And in a second, I want to talk to you about that, and I want to talk to you about your mindset shift, because again, we met on Clubhouse, and the way you grew up is there aren't any positive people. You got criminals, you got drug dealers, you got people getting killed, you got people getting shot, you got the police complicit and involved in the crimes themselves, and then you catch 22. And I want to talk about what happened there, like why your mindset shifted and how it shifted in a second. Again, we've been on with Devell Hawkins. Devell is an author. He's written 3 books. He's a #1 best-selling author. He's an inspirational guy. He's out there doing great things right now. He's inspiring the community. He's inspiring the youth to show, look, you know what? I grew up tough, and I was a product of my environment, but I don't have to stay there. And you can, in fact, do great things. His story is super interesting. His book, again, that's out right now on Amazon. I Come Before You is doing some great things. You can just go to Amazon.com. You can put it in his name, Devell Hawkins. He's pretty active on Instagram as well. So again, you just find his name there, Devell Hawkins. Follow him, give him a follow if you had some questions for him, or if you're listening to this right now and you also have a podcast and you want an interesting character and someone who's doing some great things, send him a DM, and I'm sure he'd love to be on your podcast as well. So, okay, so you're in, and now 22, you're 28, so you're 50 years old when you get out. I think I did the math right. But so at what point, like, what was there a person, was there something you read, was there a moment when you just, because I've read your bio and I know that you talk about how you just decided that you were going to kind of make the best of it, but I don't know, I find that very difficult. I don't know how I could do it. I don't, like, I mean, to me it is a life sentence. Like, when and how did you do that? I mean, because from what I know now, the only person to me that seemed really, inspiring to you, or someone that cared other than your mom, uh, was your 5th grade teacher. Everyone else just didn't seem like they did much of anything for you. Like, tell us about that moment when you just said, okay, I'm gonna make something here.
Right. And after catching those 22 years, Mike, I was in a deep relationship with my baby mom, my daughter's mother, and I was actually in love at the time. But I was doing all these terrible things in the streets, but I still had my own intimate life, and I was in a relationship, and I really cared about this person and everything. And when I caught the 22 years, it wasn't even 30 days before she was gone. And it kind of, I didn't think about the 22 years, maybe a couple of years had already passed by. And before I even started thinking about how much time I really had, because, I wasn't too interested in counting 262 months. That's how the federal system works. They tell you months. They don't say years. They be like, okay, plea out to these 262 months. I mean, by the time I count those up, I'm still in the holding cell thinking about, oh well. And it's crazy. So having a lot of conversations with my mom at the time, and knowing my relationship was gone, it was like, okay, she hate to see me this way, and it bothers her so much. And it's like, I've been stressing her out all my life. So let me do something to make her proud of me versus breaking her heart, right? My mother. So that's what really got deep into my head. And that's when I decided to do something to better myself at that time.
Just logistically, was your mom far away? Because I know sometimes when you go to a federal prison versus like a state, it's usually in a.
She was like 7.5 hours away.
Oh my God.
She couldn't drive that far on her own or anything. I mean, during the time I was that far away from her, I only got like one visit from her. A friend of mine's brought her all the way up there to see me. So, and I was up there for like maybe 7 years. And I had only seen my mom once in 7 years. So
So okay, so you're in, you've been in a couple of years roughly, and you say, you know what, I just want to make my mom proud. I mean, that's what I think a lot of like children want to do, and at
Right.
that point, I mean, you're not a child anymore, you're a full grown man, but we all want to make our parents proud, and it makes sense. But now you're here locked up with effectively a life sentence. I mean, when people go to jail for murder, 25 to life, so like when you made that decision, like what were your next steps? Were like who did you like you reach out to? Was there a program in the prison, or was there someone in the prison that could help you? Was it another inmate? There had to have been somebody that maybe kind of helped you.
Right. And what happened is I went to the education department and I talked to the head person in the education department, and I said I wanted to be committed to learning. I want to get my GED, but I know I couldn't read and write. And I just explained my situation. It's just letting her know, like, look, I've been dyslexia. I have dyslexia. I'm a slow learner. I can't really read and write. It's gonna take me some time. So I need your best tutor, someone who cares about, helping other inmates, because the tutors are other inmates, right? And they get paid to do that inside the prison. So I asked for the best tutor and I asked for the best teacher that they had available who actually cares about helping and teaching. And that's where it all began. And I made a promise to myself and my mom that I was going to do better and change my way of thinking. And that's exactly what I did. So after I got committed to that, I maybe spelled one word over 1,000 times just trying to learn how to spell it, how to pronounce it, and everything. So it was a very, very long process for me, and it was a slow process. It took me 7 years to get my GED after that.
And Devell, at that point, again, you're in your 30s.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, but I put my pride away, Mike. It didn't matter to me how old I was. I was on a mission to get my GED. I was on a mission to learn and as much as I could at that point, especially with reading and writing, because that always been my weakness.
Well, again, it's super inspiring to me, and for those who are listening and watching, I want you to, whether whatever it is you're going through, whether it has to do with business, whether it has to do with your family life, personal life, I want you to really kind of absorb and listen to what, try if you can. I'm trying to visualize like your life at that point, like being inside. I have some brothers that that did some time, and I visited them a couple times, and it is not a place that anybody wants to be. And at 30 years old, again, like you said, you just put your pride aside. And again, for those listening, watching, I want you to understand what he decided to do, and whatever it is you're trying to do. I highly doubt that most of you listening and watching right now were in a worse off situation than what Devell was in. And now he's written 3 books. He's got a 4th one coming out. He was dyslexic. He couldn't read. He was a felon. He had a 22-year sentence, and he did it. And it's, to me, again, it's super inspiring. So 7 years to get your GED. So tell me, let's just kind of I could talk to you for hours, but let's fast forward to the GED. So you put in all this work. I have a couple questions. One, the tutor that you had, was it the same tutor the whole time? And then 2, tell me what it felt like, man, when you got it, and what that was like, because I know that they do ceremonies in some prisons, but tell me about that moment when you got it and what it felt like.
Well, I started in Mariana, Florida, Mike, and the tutor that I had in Mariana, Florida, uh, he was okay. He was okay. I give him credit because he helped me as much as he could or whatever. But I ended up getting transferred to Coleman, Florida. So now I'm closer to home. I'm like an hour away from home now versus 7.5 hours away from home. And when I got to Coleman, it was unbelievable. The tutors that they had in education, man. These guys was inmates, didn't play any games. They was man, listen, they were stricter than the teacher. All right. So the teacher don't even have to come to the classroom. The teacher come take roll sometimes, because these guys was on point. They were serious about what they was doing, and they took it as a real job, Mike. It was something that they was committed to. They was committed to helping other inmates be better. And it was the grace of God that I ended up in that institution because I was serious about my education. And when I went into that classroom, Mike, I got all the attention I needed. I got all the different ways to do math problems, to pronounce words and break the words down. These guys, and on top of that, you know, the class lasts for about an hour a day. These guys were so committed to teaching us. One name was Will and one name was Chong. I got to give them their credit. So that's what we called them anyway. So these guys were so committed, Mike. After the business hours, right? You had your recreation time after 4 o'clock and the rest of that day, right? They were so committed, they would set up after school tutoring classes. You can meet them on the rec yard, you can meet them out on the compound, and they will bring their material out there. They would sit down with you, didn't matter how long it take to help you comprehend to the things that you need to learn. All right. And I really appreciate them guys, because that was the point when I was able to get my GED after working with them for like a good year.
So, did you?
It was about 2 years, Mike.
So
I worked with them 2 years before I got my GED.
Did you take the test multiple times, or was it the first time out when you took it?
No, I took it twice. The second time I completed it. The second time I was able to get it the second time.
And I know that now I think it's all computerized, but was it computerized then? And how long did it take for you to realize when you passed?
No, it wasn't computerized at the time. And what was that second question?
So after you took the test the second time, or even the first time, how long did it take for you to find out the first time that you didn't pass? And also, how long did it take for you to find out that you did in fact pass?
It took like maybe 3 to 4 weeks to find out I didn't pass. And then the second time I took it, it took probably a little bit less time than that, maybe 2 weeks.
So tell me what that felt like, man. Like, I mean, that was for me as I'm listening to your life. You know, to me, sounds like, I mean, I know you were a great athlete too, so you had some success there, but to me, it sounds like this was probably one of your first kind of big, like successful, like
listen to me, man. I was so cocky and arrogant. I still have that mojo in me today, Mike. I was so cocky and arrogant after I received my GED, man. I'm talking about it wasn't nothing in the world I can't do. I can do anything at this point. That's how much confidence it gave me. That's how good it made me feel. And that's what motivates me to keep going on this positive journey, Mike. Until accomplishing that, getting my GED gave me all the momentum I need to continue being a positive person, because I was committed to something that I never thought that I'd be able to do. And I did it. I got my GED, and it was like, I walked out on the compound and I just yelled like to the top of my lungs, as loud as I could. And the other inmates, they looking like, well, what the hell is wrong with this dude? You know what I mean? I maybe shouted like 3 or 4 times, like as loud as I could. And they thought something was going on with maybe I went crazy or something, or somebody done stabbed a knife or something. They looking crazy. But I'm so happy and excited, you know, and I'm walking down the compound and I'm holding my paper up in the air like, you know, like, yeah, that's right. That's where I get that "that's right" thing from. I always say "that's right" at the end of my posts or anything I do. I always say "that's right," because, you know, that was one of the things I said when I accomplished my GED. That's right. I knew I can do it, you know, and I just kept telling myself, I can do it. I can do it. So, I mean, it was really, really a happy moment for me. And it gave me all the momentum that I'm still riding that wave, Mike.
I love it. I love it. So again, we've been on with Devell Hawkins. If you've been listening this whole time, I mean, we haven't even got into the other stuff, the other accomplishments that he's had. You've heard his story, you've heard what he's gone through, and it's just really remarkable. This next kind of part we're going to talk a little bit about. So Devell is an author. He's written 3 books. His latest book is a #1 bestseller. I Come Before You. You can find it right on Amazon. And his name is spelled Devell Hawkins. Right now, he's pretty active on Instagram. I know his website's being worked on as well, but you can just go to Amazon, check out his book, and again, he's doing some amazing things. So he's here now, and he's not 50, so that means he got out. And so I'd like for you to tell the story first about maybe your first book and who kind of helped you with that, how that happened, and then how you got out, because it's a pretty interesting story.
Well, my first book, after I got my GED, I wanted to do something more. I wanted to do something more. So it was like, okay, what can I do while in prison? What can I do? So I decided to write a book, and I didn't know how.
Which, by the way, you had to have had a bunch of people even around you, even the people that would help you, have been like, "Come on, dude! Like, really? You took 7 years to get your GED. You're a felon. You may I don't even know how well you did on a GED, but either way, I mean, you had to have a bunch of haters. Like, what gave you that confidence? You still had that confidence of like, that's it, man, I did it? Like, or were there haters? Were there people telling you not to do it?
I can't say that people was telling me not to do it, but people wasn't really believing that I was gonna do it.
Right.
No one didn't tell me not to do it, but they kind of like, when I was like, "Hey, I'm finna write me a book," it was like they hear me, but they don't hear me type thing, right? So I started writing, Mike. You gotta understand, what I'm finna write about is things that I know about, things that I have experienced, things that I've seen in my life. So what I'm finna do is I'm finna think of a fiction story with some of the things that I've seen in life before, right? So I've seen a lot of interesting things. I've been around a lot of interesting things and directly in the poverty community, right? Some funny, some serious, some sad, however you want to look at it. So those are the things that I started writing about. And I came up with a great story. And I said, you know what? I'm going to write this story. I don't care how it looks on paper. I don't care how it sounds. I'm going to get my thoughts out. So my thing was to get my thoughts out before I lose them, right? So I got my story down. And once I got my story down, I was like, oh man, how I'm gonna get this published? How I'm gonna become a published author?
That's the part, again, that part blow. I before you even got into that, I was saying to myself, I'm like, it's tough now, even with all the technology that's out there, to even do it now. I mean, there's a lot of great options, but you're in prison now. Did you actually handwrite it? Were you handwriting the book? Okay.
I hand wrote it word for word. I hand wrote it, Mike. And I had a lot of scribble scrabble. I had a lot of I ran through erasers like crazy. I mean, the teacher was like, "What are you doing with these erasers?" Because I already have my GED. I'm not in school anymore, but I still go to the education department and say, "Hey, can I have some pencils? Can I have some erasers? I'm trying to write a book." You know what I mean? And it was like at least twice a week I was going there begging for pencils and erasers and stuff like that, because I really didn't want to buy it off the commissary, because I only had so much money coming in. My mom's still out there struggling. So I really don't have much anything, but I'm a determined person. I'm determined. I'm going to do this. And I knew they had a graduation ceremony, Mike, I didn't tell you about. They had a graduation ceremony and my mom was invited, and it was a beautiful moment there. So I wanted to continue to make myself better and just make my mom happy. So I'm a mama's boy, no matter how old I am, you only get one mom. So yeah, I didn't know how to go about writing a book. I was just writing down the stories, Mike. And I would write down the stories, and then I figured out, okay, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, okay, I'll make this, and kind of kept going from there. a lot of my stuff I wrote down was discombobulated, and I had to go over it several times to figure out what was going to be chapter 1 and what was going to be chapter 2. So again, I didn't know how I was going to get published. But the thing about it was, while I was in prison, they had these magazines and they had other inmates that's, they like to read books, they like to read fiction novels, and they big readers in there. And I came across some information from another inmate, and I was introduced to a company that goes by Crystal Perkins. That's her name, and I think that's her company's name too, Crystal Publications or something like that. So that is a company that actually help inmates put their material together, get it in a PDF file, get it all uploaded and everything on Amazon. So they don't do it for
that's pretty innovative. Like, so like kind of her market is people in prison. I mean, is that like one?
Right. Target all the people in prison. If you want to write a book, she would charge you a fee for her services, right? And once she finished with her service, all your files go to your email address and everything like that. And whoever you in contact with out in society, you can get them the information, and they can go on Amazon and check and see and make sure everything has been uploaded and everything is good.
Now, were you able to? So were you able to see that? Did you have access to the internet? Because I know some prisons,
No, but what I was able to do, Mike. Well, I'm gonna get to that in a second.
Right.
Her services was about a good $1,200. She had an $800 service. It was from $800 to $1,200 service, right? She carried. So I didn't have that type of money, and I knew it was a long shot. But what I did was, since I had already put my pride away, I say, man, look, I'm gonna take a chance. And I called NBA Hall of Famer, basketball superstar Tracy McGrady from prison. He picked the phone up and accepted my call. And when he accepted my call, I was excited. I was like, hey man, what's going on? And he talked to me, and he know me from my community, right? Because he's from Arvindale and I'm from Warner Haven. That's like they kiss, they like right next door to each other. So he definitely know my name, and he know me. He's seen me a couple of times in person before, and he was good friends with my cousin, Eric Anderson, who's no longer here with us. But I called them. I didn't have no idea that he was going to answer the phone for me or anything. I just took a shot at it. And I told him, I say, man, I'm trying to better myself. I'm trying to be a better person. I got my GED. You already know my situation. I couldn't read and write, and I was able to get my GED after 7 years, man. I'm on a real positive movement right now, and I want to help others and influence others, man. And I want to also be an author. I wrote a book, and this is what I need from you. Can you please help me? And he told me, he said, well, what do you need? I say, well, it costs about $1,200 for me to get my book published. He said, all right, this is what I'll do for you. You tell the publishing company to call me, and I get a check over to them. And I said, all right, bet. We get off the call. I call the publishing company. The publishing company said they don't do that. They don't call third parties for inmates in prison. She said, but since she was a Houston Rocket fan, she said, I am going to call Tracy McGrady for you.
Yeah, I mean, how could you not, right?
Right. So she called Tracy McGrady, and the check was in her hand the very next day. And it kind of bring tears. I get kind of teary-eyed, going through that.
I'm getting chills, man. I'm getting chills. Just like I get chills, man. Just like hearing that story. I didn't know that story. I'm glad you told it in the air. I'm glad I didn't know it before. I mean, you write about it in your bio, but I didn't know the whole story. But that's amazing.
Right. So, and that's when I became a self-published author, Mike. And listen, other inmates I started influencing other inmates. When they seen my book come into the prison looking like this, they was like, wow, you did that for real, bro? I say, yes. Crystal Perkins Publications will help you get your book like this while you in prison. Now, when you get out of prison, you can do it yourself. Okay? I started influencing guys, man, and I started building new relationships and everything after that, Mike.
That's wild, man. That's such a great story. And I just love the fact that you did what you did. You know, it's so many people. They have an idea. I hear it all the time. Oh, I want to write a book. Well, I'm going to write a book. So that's the first part. Nobody ever does it. They always say it. And
Right.
then you not only do you write the book, you handwrite the book, and you don't have the money, but you figure it out. And that's what survivors do. That's what successful people do. That's what entrepreneurs do. We adapt, we figure things out, because if you don't, you're just going to just give up, and then you just won't achieve your dreams, man. And I just give you all the credit in the world, man, to do that, because I'm sure, there are so many people that you still know that are in that same community that are just doing nothing, and they're
Right.
and I know I have family members. They're all I call them the if I had only group. If I'd have only done that, if I'd have only written the book, man, I could have done that book. I could have wrote that book too. Well, you haven't, man. I did. And so I give you a lot of credit. And then, you reach out to an NBA superstar, get him on the phone, and it's just a beautiful story, man. Like your life is just amazing. What you've done. We've been going for about an hour. We don't have a lot more time, but for those listening right now, again, whether they're an entrepreneur, a business person, and I do have a lot of like young entrepreneurs and young people as well that listen to this and watch this podcast. Like off the top of your head, is there something that you did in your life that pretty much anybody can do that can help get them, to the next level?
Well, I'm talking to a lot of people right now, Mike, out here in my community, and I'm still being a positive movement myself, and they loving it, man. I mean, I have a lot of support out here in these streets now, and it's amazing when they look at me like I'm some type of local celebrity, because they understand my upbringing and how I was out here in the streets and how I was terrorizing these streets and drug dealers like crazy, and I'm still here to live. I'm still living to tell it, and I'm
Is that
still.
what is that what it is? I mean, I'm going to cut you off, but I mean, is that the answer? Is it? I mean, it sounds like you've. Is it networking? I mean, people always hear, we hear on the Clubhouse app, your network is your net worth, or vice versa, your net worth is your network.
Yeah.
I mean, is that it? I mean, reaching out to people, connecting with the community, connecting with, like-minded people. Is that kind of the secret? I mean, I think it is, but.
Yeah, I mean, I'm constantly trying to meet more and more people, Mike, every day. Yeah, I'm trying to meet as many people as possible and speak with them and talk with them. And I'm trying to get there, Mike. I wanna be able to talk to as many people as I can, man, before I leave this earth. I want to be able to, share some, a positive light on them, and hopefully inspire them to take the next step in their lives.
Well, again, I appreciate you coming on, man. And you know what? I have a feeling we're gonna have you back, with your next book. We've been on with Devell Hawkins. He's written multiple books. His last book was a number one bestseller. I Come Before You. You can pick it up on Amazon. Devell's name is spelled Devell Hawkins. So if you just go to Amazon and you type that in, you can pick up the book. If you're a Kindle Unlimited member, I think you can get it for free. I know he has it discounted as well. You can pick up the paperback. He's doing some great things. Check him out on Instagram as well, Devell Hawkins. What I really love about what you're doing, man, is that you just keep climbing that ladder. You just keep getting more and more and more, and you're not settling for it. And it's just truly, truly amazing. Here's the one thing though we forgot to talk about. I don't want to let you go before this. Tell the viewers and the listeners the story about how you got out, because I know you're probably going to talk about that in your next book, but it's really kind of crazy what happened.
Right. I'm in on a 22-year sentence. Don't know if I'm gonna ever make it out. I mean, it's a lot of violence going on around me in the prison system, but I'm keeping my head. I'm focused. I'm locked in on what I need to be doing for myself and working on myself. 15 years passed by. I'm still in prison after 15 years, and I don't have a clue of when or if I ever get out. And then something unexpected happened when Kim Kardashian went to the White House and talked to President Trump about getting me out of prison, along with a lot of other people that should be out of prison. And I couldn't believe it when I heard about the First Step Act. It was something amazing. I had heard over 15 years, I heard a lot of laws come in, but I never felt inside excited about a law until I heard the First Step Act. And then after that, I heard about Kim Kardashian going to the White House to talk to President Trump about it. I talked to her legal team, and they confirmed that, yes, that is exactly what they're working on. And hopefully that I will be out soon, because they had a good feeling about it. And next thing you know, not long after that, President Trump signed the bill into law, and I filed my motion to get out, and then I got denied, Mike. And then 2 weeks later, they called. I got a letter 2 weeks later say, "Hey, you're getting out of prison. You was qualified for the First Step Act, and you would be going home on immediate release." Okay, if I told you 30 days was longer than 15 years, you would never believe me, Mike. 30 freaking days is longer than 15 years. You know why? Because I was qualified to be immediate release from prison with the help of Kim Kardashian. And the prosecutor stepped in and say, "Hey, he need an out plan, so we recommend him to do 30 more days before he come home." Those 30 days was the longest 30 days of my life. They was longer than the 15 years I had served. I counted every second of the 30 days that I was still incarcerated, Mike. And after the 30 days, I still had that same enthusiasm. I mean, I was excited, and still, just like the first day I had heard the news of me getting out, Mike, it didn't change a thing.
Wow, man. Again, super inspiring. Hopefully Kim Kardashian will see this. If anybody who's watching or listening to this podcast, if you have any sort of connections to her, I'm sure she'd be super inspired. I know that she's helped a lot of other people like yourself as well. So again, we've been on with Devell Hawkins. We met on Clubhouse, which is an amazing app. It's just, for us, it's just the ability to connect with people and to build relationships is just remarkable. I have no interest in Clubhouse. We just met there, and it was pretty awesome. If you'd like some more information about Devell and his book, his latest book, a #1 bestseller, it's called I Come Before You. You can find it right on Amazon. Devell's name is spelled Devell. Hawkins is his middle initial. So again, Devell Hawkins. You can also find him on Instagram, Devell Hawkins. Is it Devell L. Hawkins as well? It's just Devell Hawkins. You can find.
But the author name on the book is Devell L. Hawkins, but it's always Devell Hawkins. You don't even have to use the middle initial.
We don't have to use the L. But yeah, check him out on Instagram. Give him a follow. Reach out to him if you have a podcast or you just want to just be inspired by him, man. He's doing some great things, and I love your story, man. I love that you spent some time with us. I'm happy to have met you. I want to kind of give you a big manly hug, but we're too far away, and then with COVID, I'm gonna give you a little fist bump, man. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Michael Alden. That's Devell Hawkins, and I hope everyone has a terrific day. Hey, it's Mike Alden. I hope you're enjoying the Alden Report as much as I am. I love bringing to you new and exciting people that add value to your life. I'm also super excited to announce my latest book, Bestseller Secrets. Listen, if you're an author, maybe you're thinking about writing a book, maybe you've already written a book, maybe you're an entrepreneur and you want to continue to grow your brand, maybe you're an entrepreneur and you want to bring in more leads, maybe you're a stay-at-home mom and you wrote a cookbook or a children's book, maybe you wrote a fantasy book, a self-help book, a tell-all book, a novel. It doesn't really matter. In my latest book, Bestseller Secrets, I give you all the information that I've literally spent millions of dollars trying to figure this thing out, and I'm going to give it to you absolutely free with my book, Bestseller Secrets. Go to bestsellersecretsbook.com. Again, it's bestsellersecretsbook.com. I give you all the information that I've spent literally millions of dollars trying to figure this whole world out. My books have gone on to do amazing things. I'm a 3-time Wall Street Journal, USA Today bestselling author. I've hit #1 on Amazon hundreds of times. My books have been the #1 book in the world against all books in every category. And I've also done this for other authors. And I'm giving you this information absolutely free. Just go to bestsellersecretsbook.com. You got to pay a small processing fee, but it doesn't really matter, again, because I've spent millions of dollars. And here's the other secret.
You can do all this stuff yourself. If you don't have a team, that's okay. If you don't have a lot of time, that's okay. You read the information in my book. Again, whether you just started writing a book, whether you've written the book, whether you wrote the book years ago, and you want to kind of resurrect it, in my book, Bestseller Secrets, I show you exactly what you need to do, and I'm giving you the book absolutely free. Go to bestsellersecretsbook.com, download the book, take that information, use it to become a bona fide, legitimate #1 bestseller. I show you how to become a #1 bestseller in less than 24 hours. And again, I'm giving you this information for free. Go to bestsellersecretsbook.com. Again, it's bestsellersecretsbook.com.